Hey guys, tonight we are going to close our eyes and drift back nearly 2,000 years, not as a mighty emperor or a cunning senator, but as a regular, everyday grunt in the Roman legions. We'll feel the unforgiving pre-dawn chill on our skin, hear the clatter of gear in the half-light, and smell the smoke of 1,000 small campfires. Imagine yourself standing in the sprawling, temporary city of a Roman military camp, the sky just beginning to blush from black to a bruised purple. It's a world of iron discipline, relentless labor, and profound camaraderie. And let's be honest, given the choice between your comfortable bed and a packed earth floor, you probably wouldn't survive this. The sheer physical toll of a single day would be enough to send most of us reaching for the nearest time-traveling emergency exit. So, before you take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, I'd love to see where and when you're tuning in from, so drop your location and local time in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the cold. It seeps up from the ground, through your thin woolen blanket and into your bones. There's no gentle alarm, no slow awakening. There is only the sharp, insistent blast of a horn, the bucina, cutting through the pre-dawn stillness. It's a sound that doesn't invite you to wake up, it commands you. You're in a tent, a tight 8-man affair called a contubernum. It's made of leather, smells faintly of old sweat and damp wool, and is currently shared with 7 other men you know better than your own family. You're a unit within a unit, a tent family, and their stirring around you is the only other sound besides the distant, echoing horns. You sit up, swinging your legs off the simple straw-stuffed mattress. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke and the slightly sour smell of your tent mates. There's no time for groaning or stretching. The routine is so deeply ingrained it's become muscle memory. You pull on your tunic, a simple, rough-spun wool garment that serves as your all-purpose base layer. It's scratchy, and in the damp morning air, it feels particularly unforgiving against your skin. Your first task of the day is breakfast. Though calling it that feels like a generous overstatement, you stumble out of the tent into the organized chaos of the waking camp. The layout is a perfect grid, a testament to Roman efficiency, and even in the gloom, you know exactly where to go. You join a short line of other legionaries from your century, shuffling forward to receive your morning ration. It's not a hot plate of eggs and bacon. You're handed a piece of panis militaris, or hardtack. It's a simple flour and water biscuit, baked until it's nearly indestructible. It's less a food and more a long-term, edible building material. To go with it, you fill your canteen with pasca, a drink made from soured wine or vinegar, mixed with water. It sounds unpleasant, but it's actually quite practical. The vinegar kills bacteria, making questionable water sources safer, and it's surprisingly refreshing in a sharp, acidic sort of way. You stand there, gnawing on your rock-hard bread and sipping your sour drink, and this is the best part of your morning. This is your quiet moment. Once the meal is over, the real work begins, arming yourself. This isn't like throwing on a jacket. It's a slow, deliberate process, a ritual you perform every single day. First comes the focul, a scarf you tie around your neck. It's a small comfort, meant to prevent the sharp edges of your armor from chafing your skin raw. A simple but brilliant invention. Then, with the help of a tent mate, you begin to don your lorica. Historians still argue whether the lorica segmentata, the iconic overlapping plate armor, was truly superior to the older hamada mail. In all conditions, but for you, it's just what you were issued. It's a complex contraption of metal strips, leather straps, and brass fittings. Your partner helps you with the back buckles, pulling the straps tight until the armor settles heavily onto your shoulders. The weight is immense, a constant, pressing reminder of your profession. It's not just a piece of clothing, it's a metal shell that you will live, march, and fight in. You begin with the Baltius, your military belt. This thick leather strap serves as both practical gear and mark of distinction. The decorative cingulum militare, its hanging leather strips adorned with polished metal studs, sways gently as you move, producing the characteristic sound of marching legionaries. The craftsmanship reflects Roman military precision, with each component serving both functional and ceremonial purposes. Your Calligraphy come next. The renowned Roman marching sandals. Their innovative design features a breathable leather lattice that prevents overheating during long campaigns. The thick soles, embedded with numerous iron hobnails, provide exceptional traction on all surfaces. Years of experience have perfected your lacing technique, ensuring optimal support without discomfort. The protective gear follows. Your Gallic-style helmet, with its distinctive cheek guards and neck protection, fits snugly. The well-designed ear openings allow adequate hearing while offering maximum safety. The curved scutum shield, constructed from layered wood and reinforced with durable materials, represents Roman engineering excellence. Its substantial weight and coverage demonstrate the legion's emphasis on defensive capability. Your field pack, the Sarsina, contains everything needed for extended campaigns. Use practical tools, including the versatile Delabra, combination pickaxe, hammer. Cooking equipment like the Patera foldable bronze mess kit. Personal items and spare clothing. Several days' worth of preserved rations. The complete ensemble represents remarkable logistical planning, with each item carefully designed for portability and multiple uses. The total load demonstrates the Roman military's understanding of campaign requirements. As dawn breaks, you join your sentry in formation. The camp stirs with quiet efficiency as soldiers assume their positions. Officers take their places, the centurion at the front with his staff of office, the optio at the rear, ensuring proper alignment. At the command, the column begins its advance. The well-practiced motion comes naturally despite the considerable weight of equipment. Your body automatically adjusts to the rhythm developed through countless hours of training. The synchronized steps create a steady cadence as the formation moves forward in perfect order. The sun rises higher, illuminating the disciplined ranks. Every element, from individual gear to unit formation, reflects the unmatched organization that made Rome's military so effective. This is the reality of legionary service: meticulous preparation, constant training, and unwavering attention to detail working in harmony to create an unparalleled fighting force. The march continues, as it has for centuries, as it will for centuries more, minus a testament to Roman military tradition. You march. That's what you do. For the next 5 hours, you will walk at the greatest militaris, the regulation military pace. This is a brisk walk designed to cover 20 Roman miles, about 18.5 modern miles. In the cooler part of the morning, you stare at the back of the helmet of the man in front of you. This is your entire world, his swaying pack, the rhythmic movement of his shoulders, the way dust cakes on the back of his tunic. You learn to read his movements, to anticipate his pace, to become a seamless extension of him, just as the man behind you is a seamless extension of you. The sun begins its slow, unforgiving climb into the sky. The initial chill of the morning burns off, replaced by a growing warmth that soon becomes a relentless, baking heat. Sweat begins to trickle from your hairline, carving clean paths through the dust on your face. It pools under the wool of your tunic and at the small of your back. The leather focale around your neck, meant to prevent chafing, is now soaked and feels like a hot, wet compress. You dream of taking your helmet off, just for a moment, to feel a breeze on your scalp, but that is not an option. Discipline is everything. To stop, to falter, to show weakness is to invite the sharp sting of the centurion's vine staff and the scorn of your comrades. Your mind drifts into a state of numb routine. You think of nothing and everything. You might hum a tune, a marching song that's probably more than a little disrespectful to the emperor or your own general. Soldier's humor is a timeless thing. You focus on your breathing, on placing one foot in front of the other. The road stretches endlessly before you, a dusty ribbon winding through unfamiliar countryside. Is this Gaul, with its endless forests and damp air? Or perhaps Britannia, where the sun seems a paler, more distant thing? It doesn't matter. The road is the road, the sun is the sun, and the weight is the weight. Your shoulders have moved past aching into a state of permanent, grinding agony. The pole of your sarcina has worn a groove into your flesh, a mark you'll carry for as long as you are a soldier. Your legs, powerful as they are from endless training, feel like pillars of lead. You shift the scutum on your arm, trying to find a new position, a moment's relief for your screaming muscles. There is none. You simply endure. This is the reality of Roman expansion. It wasn't just won with clever tactics and sharp swords. It was built on the backs of men like you, carrying the entire infrastructure of war on their shoulders, one grueling step at a time. The famous Roman roads you march on are a marvel of engineering, but right now you curse the man who invented them. Each perfectly laid stone is just another hard surface for your hobnailed Calligraphy to slam against, sending shocks up your shins. Occasionally the column halts. It's never for long, just a few minutes. The command ripples back, and you thankfully, carefully, lower the T-shaped pole from your shoulder. You lean the sarcina against your scutum, which you prop up in front of you. The relief is so profound, so immediate, it's almost dizzying. The sudden absence of weight makes you feel like you could float away. You don't sit. You might never get back up. Instead, you stretch your back, rotate your shoulders, and take a long pull from your canteen. The posca is warm now, but the sharp, vinegary taste cuts through the dust in your throat and wakes you up a little. Historians still debate the precise recipe for posca, but its universal use as a hydrating and antiseptic drink is undisputed. For you, it's simply the taste of a short break. You look at the faces of your tent mates. They are grim, caked in dust and sweat, their expressions mirroring your own deep fatigue. A quiet word is exchanged, a shared glance of misery. It's a strange form of bonding, this collective suffering. It forges a connection stronger than any friendship you knew in your civilian life. All too soon, the horns blow again. The break is over. With a collective, resigned groan that is felt more than heard, the legionaries shoulder their packs. The familiar, crushing weight returns, and for a moment you wonder if you can actually do it, if you can take another step. But you do. You always do. You lift the pole, settle it into its well-worn groove, and join the rhythmic tramping once more. The landscape becomes a blur. The sun is now high overhead, a white-hot coin in a bleached sky. There is no shade. The heat shimmers off the road, distorting the view of the column ahead, making it look like a mythical, many-legged beast snaking its way to the end of the world. Your focus narrows again to the man in front of you. His pace is your pace. His world is your world. You know that if you fall, the Optio will be there in a heartbeat. His voice sharp, his staff ready. Straggling is not just a personal failure, it endangers the entire legion. A broken column is a vulnerable column. So you march on, your mind a blank slate of endurance. The only thought is the next step, and the one after that, and the one after that. Finally, after what feels like a lifetime, another signal from the horns. The pace slows. You see the vanguard of the column ahead begin to peel off the road into an open, seemingly unremarkable field. You have arrived. But your day, your work, is far from over. In fact, it's just about to enter its most crucial phase. Section 10. The rhythmic tramp of 10,000 pairs of Calligraphy falters and dies. The march is over, but you don't feel relief. You feel a different kind of dread, a weary anticipation. You've stopped, but you cannot rest. You are standing in a large, open field, unremarkable in every way except that it was chosen. While you were marching, a small party of surveyors, the grammatici, had ridden ahead. With practice, they used their simple but precise tools. A T-square-like device called a dot, chroma and colored flags, to mark out a perfect rectangle on the earth. This is the blueprint for your temporary home, and you are the construction crew. The genius of the Roman legion isn't just its fighting ability, it's the fact that it's a mobile fortress, capable of building its own shell every single night. The commands are given, once again, through horn blasts and the shouts of centurions. There is no confusion, no hesitation. The routine is absolute. Several cohorts are detailed for guard duty. They fan out around the designated perimeter, forming a protective screen. They stand there, fully armed, shields up, scanning the surrounding woods and hills while the rest of you get to work. Their vigilance allows you to be vulnerable, at least for a little while. With a deep, thankful sigh, you finally, carefully, shrug off the 100-pound burden of your gear. The sarcina and scutum hit the ground with a heavy thud. The sudden lightness is intoxicating, a brief, dizzying moment of freedom for your compressed spine and screaming shoulders. But there's no time to savor it. You immediately reach for the tools that were strapped to your pack. Your dolabra, the legionary pickaxe, feels heavy but familiar in your hands. You also grab your wicker basket, the one you've been carrying all day. It's time to move some earth. You take your assigned place along a taut rope that marks one of the four sides of the giant rectangle. This will be the fossa, the defensive ditch. At the signal, you and thousands of other men swing your pickaxes in a steady, unhurried rhythm. The initial breaking of the turf is the hardest part. The ground is firm, perhaps rocky. The pick sends jarring vibrations up your arms with every strike. Thwack, scrape, thud. The sound multiplies across the field, a deafening percussion of manual labor. You work in teams. One man loosens the earth with the pick, another cuts the sod with a turf cutter, and another, you, scoops the loosened soil and rock into your wicker basket. Once your basket is full, you turn and carry it to the inner side of the ditch line. Here, you dump the earth, adding it to a steadily growing mound. This mound is the agger, the rampart. Then you turn, walk back to the ditch, and do it all again, and again, and again, for hours. It's mind-numbing, back-breaking work. Your muscles, already fatigued from the march, burn with a fresh, deep fire. Your hands, calloused as they are, begin to feel raw on the handle of the pick and the rim of the basket. The sun, beginning its descent, still beats down on your back. There is no shade out here in this open field. You are completely exposed. You work with the same grim determination as you march. You fall into the rhythm of it, swing the pick, loosen the earth, fill the basket, carry, dump, return. It's a human conveyor belt, a testament to organized labor. You glance down the line and see hundreds of other men doing the exact same thing, their bodies moving in near perfect synchrony. The ditch grows deeper with every basket of earth you carry away. The standard marching camp ditch would be about 9 feet wide and 7 feet deep, a formidable obstacle for any, and you are digging it by hand as the ditch deepens and the rampart rises. Another task begins. Remember those 2 heavy, sharpened wooden stakes you've been carrying all day? The ones called suds? Now you know why. Once the earthen rampart is high enough, you and your comrades retrieve these stakes. They are not simple sharpened sticks. They are cleverly designed, thicker in the middle, with tapered, sharpened ends. You drive them into the top of the agger, angled outwards. They are positioned in an interlocking pattern, lashed together to create a wicked, impenetrable hedge of sharpened wood, the vallum. This is the palisade. Any attacker who managed to cross the ditch would then have to struggle up the steep earthen rampart, only to be confronted with this brutal fence. It's a simple, yet terrifyingly effective defensive measure. Historians still argue whether this monumental effort was undertaken every single night, Or, if in safer territories, a more simplified fortification might have been deemed sufficient. But here, on the edge of potentially hostile territory, there are no shortcuts. The full works are required. As you labor, you can see other teams working inside the now defined perimeter. The grid of the camp is taking shape. The centurions are directing the pitching of the contubernia, your 8-man leather tents. They are laid out in perfect rows, creating streets and alleys. In the center, a larger, more elaborate tent is raised. The praetorium, the headquarters for the commanding officer. The standards of the legion are erected here. The silver eagles and cohort emblems gleaming in the late afternoon sun. The level of standardization is almost comical in its precision. A quirky but essential fact of legionary life is that every single camp, whether built in the deserts of Judea or the forests of Germania, followed the exact same blueprint. As a legionary, you could be transferred to a completely different legion on the opposite side of the empire, walk into their camp at night, and know exactly where your cohort street is, where to find the quartermaster, and, most importantly, where the latrines are. It's a comforting piece of predictability in a life defined by chaos and uncertainty. Your tent, your little leather home, is always in the same place relative to everything else. Finally, as the sky turns from orange to a deep purple, the work is done. The last stake is hammered into place. The last basket of earth is dumped. The horns sound once more, signaling the end of the labor. You stand up straight, your back protesting with a series of deep, painful cracks. You are covered in dirt, drenched in sweat, and so tired you can barely stand. But you look back at what you have accomplished. Hours ago, this was an empty field. Now it is a fortress, a city, complete with walls, a gate, and organized streets, has risen from the earth through the sheer force of your collective will. The sentries are now posted on the rampart, their dark silhouettes outlined against the fading light. The warm glow of campfires begins to flicker to life within the walls. A feeling of profound security settles over you. The ditch is deep, the wall is high, the stakes are sharp. Tonight, you are safe. You have built your own safety with your bare hands. The punishing labor of building the fortress is over, but your day is not. This period before dark is what you might generously call downtime, though it bears little resemblance to a relaxing evening at home. The camp, now secure within its newly constructed defenses, transforms from a construction site into a functioning military town. The air fills with a cacophony of new sounds. The clang of hammers on metal from the blacksmith's tents, the lowing of baggage animals being tended to, the murmur of thousands of conversations, and the crackle of countless small fires. The smell of smoke and cooking food begins to overpower the scent of turned earth and sweat. This is the closest you'll get to peace. Today, your first order of business is personal maintenance. You are caked in a thick layer of grime, a mixture of dried sweat, road dust, and the soil of the rampart. Feeling even remotely human requires cleaning up. There are no private showers or hot baths here. Instead, you and your tent mates head to one of the designated watering areas, likely a stream that was a key factor in choosing this campsite. You strip off your filthy tunic and wade into the cool water. The shock of the cold is sharp but welcome, washing away the ache in your muscles and the filth from your skin. You scrub yourself down, the simple act feeling like an incredible luxury. Back at your tent, it's time for gear maintenance, a task as critical as any other. Your life depends on your equipment, and you treat it with a reverence born of necessity. You take a piece of cloth and some oil or animal fat and begin to meticulously clean and polish your lorica segmentata. You check every strap for wear, every buckle for weakness. A broken strap in the heat of battle could be a fatal inconvenience. Rust is your constant enemy, and you work the oil into every crevice of the metal plates, protecting them from the damp night air. Next, you turn your attention to your weapons. You take a whetstone to the edges of your gladius, the short, brutally effective Roman sword. You don't aim for a razor's edge. That would make the blade too fragile, but a sturdy, sharp, cutting edge. The rhythmic scrape of stone on steel is a meditative sound, a familiar part of the evening ritual throughout the camp. You inspect your pugio, your dagger, with the same care. Then you check your pila. The wooden shafts are inspected for cracks, the metal points for any damage. These are not just tools, they are extensions of your will, the instruments by which you will survive the next engagement. The Romans even had a saying, a fringe bit of military wisdom: a soldier's first enemy is his own laziness. Neglecting your gear was tantamount to inviting disaster. Once your personal armor and weapons are in order, you might have other duties. You are part of a contubernum, a tent family of 8, and you share the chores. One man might be responsible for fetching the grain ration for the group. Another's job is to mill it. You take your share of the hard wheat kernels and pour them into a small, portable hand mill. It's a simple device, 2 circular stones, and turning the top stone to grind the wheat into coarse flour is yet another tedious, straining task. Your arms, already aching from the pickaxe and the march, complain bitterly. But if you want to eat, you grind. The main meal of the day is cooked over your small tent fire. Don't imagine a lavish banquet. The legionary diet was about calories and sustenance, not culinary delight. The flour you just ground is mixed with water and a little salt to form a dough, which you might cook on a hot stone or in a small pan, making a simple flatbread. The main dish is often a thick porridge or stew called pulse. It's your freshly ground wheat, boiled with water until it's a thick, hearty mush. If you're lucky, some extras might go into the pot, perhaps some salted pork, some lentils or beans from the quartermaster, or maybe some vegetables you foraged or acquired during the day's march. A sprig of wild garlic or onion would be a treasured find, adding a burst of flavor to an otherwise bland meal. You and your 7 tent mates gather around the fire, dipping your bread into the communal pot. It's not delicious, it's probably not even good, but it is hot, and it is filling. It replenishes the thousands of calories you burn during the day. As you eat, you talk. This is the heart of your social life. You complain about the centurion. You joke about the terrible food. You might tell a story from home, a distant memory that feels like it belongs to another person. You share news and rumors that have filtered through the legion. Is the campaign ending soon? Are there enemy scouts in the woods? Is it true the new grain shipment is infested with weevils again? Historians still debate the literacy rates within the legions, but it's certain that many soldiers could read and write. You might see a man painstakingly scratching a letter home onto a thin wooden tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. These letters, preserved in the waterlogged soil of forts like Vindolanda in Britain, give us a poignant glimpse into the soldiers' lives. They wrote home for warmer socks, complained about their duties, and expressed a deep longing for their families. It's a reminder that these weren't just cogs in a military machine. They were ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. After the meal, the camp settles into a lower gear. Some men might engage in games of chance, throwing dice made of bone or wood, gambling for small coins, or their next turn at the grinding stone. It's officially forbidden, but the centurions usually turn a blind eye, as long as it doesn't lead to fights. You might simply sit by the fire, watching the flames dance, the warmth a comfort against the encroaching night. Chill, chill. The sky above is a canopy of brilliant stars, unpolluted by any city lights. It's a moment of quiet contemplation. You look around at the faces of your comrades, illuminated by the firelight. You have marched with them, labored with them, bled with them. You may not like all of them, but you are bound to them. You trust them with your life, and they trust you with theirs. This shared experience, this esprit de corps, is the glue that holds the legion together. It is the reason you can face what comes tomorrow. But the day is not quite over. As darkness fully envelops the camp, the final duties are assigned. You listen for the horn call that announces the changing of the watch. There are 4 watches through the night, each lasting about 3 hours. Your name might be called, and if it is, your brief period of rest is over, and the final, most mentally taxing part of your day is about to begin. Section Woo. The brief respite by the fire is a fleeting comfort. The camp has settled into a deep, rhythmic quiet, the silence broken only by the gentle crackle of dying embers, and the soft snores and murmurs emanating from the hundreds of leather tents. Just as you feel the heavy pull of sleep beginning to claim you, a distant horn blows a new sequence of notes. It's not the harsh alarm of dawn, but a clearer, more measured call that cuts through the night air. Flame. This is the signal for the changing of the watch. Your centurion, or perhaps the optio, moves quietly down the line of tents, his voice low but firm as he calls out the names of the men for the next turn of duty. And then you hear your name. A quiet groan escapes you, not of complaint, but of pure, bone-deep weariness. There is no arguing, no delaying. You slowly, stiffly get to your feet. Your comrades in the tent are asleep, lost to the world in the heavy oblivion of exhaustion. You move carefully in the cramped space, trying not to stumble over a stray boot or a sleeping body. You pull on your caligae once more, the hobnail scraping softly on the packed earth. You shrug on your armor, which feels colder and heavier now than it did in the morning. You don't take your full marching pack, but you grab your helmet, your shield, and your pila. Stepping out of the tent is like stepping into another world. The bustling camp you helped build and inhabit has vanished, replaced by a city of shadows. The moonlight casts a pale silver sheen on the leather tents and the dark earth. The only lights are the occasional torches burning at the gates, and the faint glow from the praetorium at the camp's center. The air is cool and clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. You join a small group of other men from your century who have been called for the watch. There's no conversation. A shared look of tired resignation is all that passes between you. You are led by a junior officer, a decurion, toward the perimeter. Your footsteps are muffled as you walk up the earthen rampart, the agger, that you labored so hard to build. You find your designated position along the walkway at the top, just behind the menacing fence of sharpened stakes. From here, you can look out over the defensive ditch, the fossa, and into the blackness of the surrounding countryside. The sentry you are relieving materializes out of the darkness. He gives you a quiet, formal report, all quiet, and whispers the password for the night. The exchange is brief, professional, then he is gone, melting back into the shadows on his way to his own well-deserved rest, and you are alone. This is the lonely watch. For the next 3 hours, this small section of the rampart is your entire world. Your job is singular and absolute. You watch and you listen. And above all, you stay awake. Falling asleep on duty is the most unforgivable sin a legionary can commit. It's not just a failure, it's a betrayal of every other man, sleeping safely behind the wall you are supposed to be guarding. The punishment is the dreaded fustuarium, where the offender is clubbed or stoned to death by his own comrades. It's a brutal, shameful end, and the thought of it is a powerful stimulant. At first, your senses are on high alert. Every rustle of leaves in the forest beyond the ditch sounds like an approaching footstep. Every hoot of an owl seems like a coded signal. The moonlight plays tricks on your eyes, turning a gnarled tree stump into a crouching warrior or a patch of mist into a creeping enemy scout. Your grip tightens on the smooth wood of your pilum. You strain your ears, trying to parse the natural sounds of the night from anything that might suggest a threat. Now, the chirping of crickets, the sigh of the wind through the grass, the distant cry of some nocturnal animal. You become a part of the nightscape, a silent, armored statue of vigilance. Historians still debate the exact system of challenges and responses. How often would a patrol pass by? What were the precise protocols for sounding an alarm without causing a panic? It was likely a complex system of passwords, or signa, that changed daily, ensuring that anyone trying to infiltrate the camp at night would be quickly identified. You might hear the quiet tread of a patrol approaching from behind you, and you would issue a sharp, low challenge, your heart pounding, until you heard the correct response. As time crawls by, the initial adrenaline fades, replaced by a profound, almost hypnotic fatigue. Your eyelids feel impossibly heavy. Your mind, exhausted from the day's ordeal, threatens to drift. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, the hobnails of your calligraphy grinding softly on the walkway. You roll your neck to ease the stiffness. You do anything to fight off the creeping tendrils of sleep. You stare into the darkness until your eyes burn. You start to trace the constellations in the vast, clear sky. The slow, majestic wheel of the stars becomes your only clock, the only measure of the passage of time. You think strange thoughts in the deep solitude of the night watch. You think of your farm, the smell of the soil after rain, the warmth of the sun on your face when you weren't carrying 100 pounds of gear. You think of a girl you knew, her smile, the sound of her laugh. These memories feel 1,000 miles and 1,000 years away. They are sharp and painful in their clarity. You wonder what your family is doing right now. Are they sleeping? Are they thinking of you? A wave of profound loneliness washes over you, more chilling than the night air. Here you are, on a wall you built yourself, in a foreign land you helped conquer, surrounded by thousands of your comrades, yet you have never felt more alone than just as you feel you can't possibly stay upright for another second. You hear it, the soft crunch of sandals on the rampart behind you. It's the patrol with your relief. You issue the challenge, your voice a hoarse croak. The correct password comes back out of the darkness. A new sentry takes your place, and with a nod, you are dismissed. The relief is so overwhelming, it almost makes your knees buckle. You trudge back towards your tent, moving like a man in a dream. The camp is still shrouded in the deep silence of sleep. You navigate the perfectly straight streets by memory, a ghost returning to his tomb. You duck through the leather flap of your contubernum. The air inside is thick and warm with the breath of 7 sleeping men. The familiar, slightly sour smell is strangely comforting. You don't even bother to take off all your armor. You unbuckle the main straps of your lorica, letting it hang loose. You kick off your calligraphy, and then you collapse onto your straw pallet. There is no gentle transition. One moment you are upright, the next you are falling into a bottomless, dreamless pit of exhaustion. Your final conscious thought is a simple, bleak realization. In just a few short hours, the bacchina will sound again, and you will get up and do it all over again. You have survived a day in the Roman Legion, the life of a tea master in Song Dynasty China. Zal, the first light of dawn, is a soft gray smear above the layered eaves of Kaifeng. It does little to cut through the morning chill that has settled deep into your bones overnight. You can hear the city beginning to stir, a low hum that will soon swell into a roar. From the floor where you sleep, a simple mat in a corner of the storage room, you hear the distant, rhythmic clang of a blacksmith already at his forge, the rumble of a heavy cart on the stone-paved street, and the faint, melodious call of a noodle seller announcing his first batch of the day. But for you, the day begins not with a melody, but with the familiar, grating sound of your master's snoring from his room upstairs. It's a sound you've come to associate with the urgent need to be on your feet before he is. You slide from your mat, the coarse fabric of your tunic scratching faintly against your skin. There are no grand pronouncements, no ceremony to mark the start of your day as a tea house apprentice. There is only the familiar ache in your lower back and the silent list of chores that scrolls through your mind. First, the floors. You take up the worn bamboo broom, its bristles smoothed down by countless sweeps, and begin the long, rhythmic task of coaxing the previous day's dust and debris out of the door. The main room of the tea house is dark and cool, filled with the ghosts of yesterday's conversations. The air is thick with the lingering scent of charcoal smoke, stale wine, and the faint, sweet perfume of last night's incense. You sweep around the low tables and the scattered stools, your movements practiced and efficient. This is not the art of tea, not yet. Of being invisible, of making a space clean and calm, without drawing any attention to the effort it requires. It's a thankless job, of course. No one will ever compliment the clean floor, but everyone would notice a dirty one. Your contribution is your own absence. With the sweeping done, you move to the heavy wooden shutters. Pushing them open feels like parting curtains on a grand stage. The growing light of the morning spills into the room, illuminating swirling dust motes that dance like tiny spirits in the air. The street outside is already a river of humanity. Merchants arrange their wares. Porters carrying impossible loads shout for passage. And the occasional sedan chair, carrying some minor official or wealthy lady, parts the crowd like a ship's prow. Kaifeng, the capital of the Great Song, is a city that never truly sleeps, and you are but one tiny cog in its massive, relentless machine. This city, with its more than 1 million souls, is the center of the world, and its heart beats with a rhythm of commerce, politics, and, of course, tea. The government, in a surprising fit of commercial-mindedness, even abolished the traditional nighttime curfew, allowing places like this tea house to thrive well into the early hours. A fact that feels significantly less wonderful when you're the one cleaning up after last night's revelers. Next, the water. This is perhaps the least pleasant part of your morning. You grab the 2 wooden buckets, a thick bamboo pole balanced across your shoulders, and join the queue at the neighborhood well. The air is social, filled with the chatter of servants and housewives exchanging gossip as they wait their turn. You remain silent, conserving your energy. The buckets are heavy, and the journey back is a careful, shuffling, balancing act. You can feel the muscles in your shoulders and back strain with each step. Spilling the water would mean not only another trip, but also the quiet, disappointed gaze of your master, which is somehow far worse than any scolding. This water is the lifeblood of the establishment. It will be used for cleaning, for cooking the simple morning meal, and most importantly, for the tea. Your master is famously particular about his water, often sending you to a specific well on the other side of the district, claiming its taste is sweeter. You suspect it's just his way of ensuring you get a robust morning workout. Back in the tea house, you pour the water into the large ceramic vats in the kitchen. Then you turn your attention to the stove. You carefully arrange the charcoal, coaxing a flame to life with a practice puff from a bamboo tube. This fire must be kept at a steady, gentle heat throughout the day. Too hot, and the water for the tea will be dead. As the master calls it, its spirit boiled away. Too cool, and the tea will be flat and uninspired. It is a delicate balance. One of the first true lessons in the patience required for this path. Historians still argue whether an apprenticeship like yours was a genuine path to social mobility or simply a form of indentured servitude with better aromas. From where you're standing, with hands covered in charcoal dust and a perpetually aching back, the latter feels more likely. You haven't even been allowed to touch the precious tea cakes yet, save to move their storage boxes. Your own breakfast is a simple affair, a bowl of thin rice congee and a few pickled vegetables, eaten quickly while standing in the kitchen. The master, once he descends from his chambers, will have the same, though his will be served to him at his favorite table with a small cup of last night's reheated tea. As you slurp down your meal, You watch him. He is a man of indeterminate age, his face a mask of calm that rarely betrays his thoughts. He moves with a slow, deliberate grace that you try and fail to emulate. He inspects your work without a word, running a single finger along a tabletop, glancing at the water level in the vats, sniffing the air by the stove. A slight, almost imperceptible nod is the highest form of praise you can expect, and you receive it this morning. It sends a small, warm bloom of relief through your chest. The first customers of the day begin to arrive. They are not the connoisseurs or the poets who will come later. They are merchants, local shopkeepers, and clerks from the nearby government offices. They want a quick, cheap bowl of tea to wash down their morning buns and fortify them for the day ahead. For them, you prepare the most basic infusions, boiling lower-grade tea leaves in a large iron kettle. It's simple work, but it requires you to be fast and attentive. You shuttle back and forth from the stove to the tables, pouring the steaming, dark liquid into coarse ceramic bowls. The room fills with the sounds of slurping and quiet conversation. It is only after the morning rush has subsided that your real training begins. Today, the master has decided you will learn to grind the tea. He leads you not to the main room, but to a small, quiet chamber at the back of the house, reserved for serious tea preparation and for serving the most discerning guests. He retrieves a small, dark, circular cake of tea from a lacquered box. This is not the loose-leaf rubbish you serve to the morning rabble. This is tribute tea, pressed into a cake adorned with the image of a dragon and a phoenix. It comes from the finest estates in the Fujian province, a brick of compressed art that costs more than you could earn in a year. The scent that wafts from the box is intoxicating, deep, earthy, and sweet, like a forest floor after a spring rain. You've heard that some of the most eccentric aristocrats have even started using powdered tea in their skincare routines, mixing it with everything from pearls to, allegedly, crocodile dung sunscreen. You sincerely hope that's just a rumor. Your master hands you a stone mill. It is small and heavy, its surface worn smooth. He demonstrates the motion, a slow, steady, circular grind. The pressure must be even, he says, his voice low and calm. You are not crushing the tea, you are persuading it to become powder. Imagine you are polishing a fine piece of jade. Too much force, and you create heat, which will spoil the flavor. Too little, and the powder will be coarse and uneven. He lets you take over. Your first attempts are clumsy. Your arm is tired from carrying water, and your grind is jerky. The powder you produce is a sad, gritty mess. The master says nothing, simply gesturing for you to discard it and try again. And so you do. For what feels like hours, you sit there, grinding, your focus narrowing to the feel of the stone in your hand, the whisper of the tea cake turning to dust, the rising, wonderful fragrance. Your arm burns, but you ignore it. You are no longer just a boy sweeping floors. You are, in this small, quiet room, finally touching the heart of the matter. You are learning the first secret language of tea. Section R. Weeks have passed in a fine jade-green haze of powdered tea. Your arm no longer burns. It has found a new, quiet strength, a muscle memory that lives in the slow, circular persuasion of the stone mill. The gritty frustration of your first attempts has given way to a consistent, whisper-fine powder, the texture of silk that puffs into the air like a hopeful ghost. When you transfer it to its ceramic jar, you have ground dozens of tea cakes under your master's watchful eye. He no longer needs to inspect the powder. He can tell its quality from the sound of the mill alone. A high, smooth whisper for a perfect grind, a low, scratchy grumble for a failure. The absence of the grumble is your new form of praise. One afternoon, after you have finished grinding a particularly fragrant cake, he does not dismiss you. He simply gestures to the low table in the center of the quiet room. The lesson is about to continue. He lays out a piece of dark silk and, from a carved wooden box, begins to place items upon it. These are not the rough, functional tools of the kitchen. Each one seems to possess its own spirit, a quiet dignity that commands respect. First, a slender bamboo scoop, the chashaku, its form elegant and simple. He shows you how to use it, drawing a precise measure of the green powder you so painstakingly created. There is no guesswork. It is a specific, practiced gesture, a small ritual that marks the beginning of the ceremony. Then comes the bowl, the chawan. It is heavy in your hands, heavier than you expect. It is a piece of dark jianware, the glaze a deep, lustrous black, shot through with delicate, silvery streaks that look like rabbit's fur caught in moonlight. This, your master explains, is the preferred vessel. The dark, mysterious glaze provides the perfect canvas, a stark contrast for the pale, frothy head of the tea that you will soon learn to create. Holding it, you understand that its value is likely more than this entire tea house is worth. You try not to think about your clumsy hands, which suddenly feel enormous and ill-suited for such delicate work. A bowl like this is an aristocrat's treasure, a poet's muse. For you, it's a terrifying financial liability. Next, he brings the water, not in a bucket, but in a graceful ewer with a long, impossibly thin spout. This is the water from the sweet well, carefully heated over the charcoal stove to the perfect temperature. The point your master calls fisheye, when tiny bubbles begin to form on the bottom, just before the full, rolling boil that would kill its spirit. He pours a small amount of the hot water into the bowl, swishes it around to warm the ceramic, and then discards it. Every step is precise, economical, and imbued with a sense of purpose. He then scoops the powder into the warmed, empty bowl. He hands you the final, most important instrument. At first glance, it looks a bit like a modern shaving brush, a comical thought that you quickly suppress. It is the tea whisk, the chasen, carved from a single piece of bamboo, its end split into 100 delicate tines, each one curved by hand. It is light, yet strong, an object of seemingly impossible craftsmanship. You do not stir, the master says, his voice barely disturbing the silence. You whisk. From the wrist. The arm remains still. He demonstrates. His wrist moves in a rapid, yet fluid, or UW pattern, the bamboo tines dancing against the bottom of the bowl. The sound is a soft, urgent thwack, 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 and within moments, the green powder and water transform. A thick, creamy foam, the color of pale jade, rises to the surface. He stops, lifting the whisk to reveal a perfectly smooth, frothy head, what the poets call kshuiu, or snowy froth. Dinsa, it is thick enough, he says, that it should cling to the sides of the bowl for a long time. It is a small, edible work of art. Now, it is your turn. You measure the powder, your hand shaking slightly. You pour the water, splashing a little onto the silk. The master's eye twitches, but he says nothing. You take up the whisk. Your first attempt is a disaster. You are clumsy, stirring more than whisking. Your wrist is stiff, your arm moves, and the resulting liquid is a sad, thin, bubbly scum with large, gaping holes, like a swamp pond. There is no creamy foam, no snowy froth. It is, to put it mildly, pathetic. You can feel a hot flush of shame creep up your neck. Your master looks at the pitiful bowl, then at you. He picks it up, drinks it in one gulp, and sets the bowl down. Again, is all he says. So begins the next phase of your education. Day after day, you whisk. You whisk until your wrist aches, in a way you never thought possible. You whisk until the sound of the bamboo on ceramic fills your dreams. You learn the subtle difference in pressure, the exact angle, the necessary speed. You learn to listen to the sound, which tells you when the foam is beginning to form correctly. You waste what feels like a mountain of precious tea, each failed bowl a silent monument to your incompetence. During these long afternoons, the life of the tea house continues on the other side of the screen. You can hear the murmur of customers, the clatter of wine cups, the occasional burst of laughter. Sometimes, wealthy patrons arrive, men in fine silks and elaborate hats, discussing politics or poetry over the very tea you are failing to master. Scholars debate just how much of this elaborate tea ritual, this Dian cha, was a genuine aesthetic pursuit versus a performance of social status for an increasingly wealthy urban class. Watching these men, you suspect it's a healthy mix of both. They are not just drinking tea, they are drinking their own refinement. One day, your master quotes from the emperor himself, Huizong, a man known more for his artistic obsessions than his administrative skills. The emperor's treatise on tea is the ultimate guide, the sacred text for any true tea master. Okay? The color of the tea should be pure white. Your master recites, looking at your latest attempt, and the froth, once it appears, should shine like piled-up snow. Your current bowl is more of a murky pond scum green with a froth that looks like melted, week-old snow. Progress is slow, yet you persist. You learn to feel the life in the tools, the heft of the bowl, the lightness of the whisk, the silky texture of the powder. You are no longer just a boy following instructions. You are beginning to understand the connection between them, the quiet harmony required to bring them together. Then one late afternoon it happens. Your wrist feels loose and light. The motion is effortless. The sound is right. The foam rises, thick and creamy and pale. You lift the whisk and the peak in the center holds. It is a snowy froth, clinging to the sides of the dark bowl, a perfect white canvas on a field of black. You barely breathe. You slide the bowl across the mat to your master. He picks it up, observes it from all angles, his face unreadable. He takes a slow, deliberate sip. He holds the liquid in his mouth for a long moment, his eyes closed. He swallows. The silence stretches, thick and heavy like the foam in the bowl. He opens his eyes, looks at you, and gives a single slow nod. And in that moment, the weeks of aching wrists, the shame of 100 failed bowls, all of it evaporates. You are no longer the apprentice who sweeps the floors and hauls the water. You are the one who makes the tea. Section San. The nod was not the end. It was the beginning. Your life settles into a new rhythm. One dictated not by the broom or the water bucket, but by the whisper of the whisk. You are no longer confined to the back room. You are now permitted to prepare tea for your master's most valued guests. They are men of letters and influence, their robes smelling of ink and expensive incense. They watch you, their eyes critical but appreciative. As you perform the dance of Dian Cha, you learn to read their subtle cues. The slight narrowing of the eyes that means the water is a fraction too hot. The gentle sigh of satisfaction that follows a perfect sip. You are no longer invisible. You are part of the spectacle. And your master, it seems, has decided it is time for a new stage. One morning, he presents you not with a tea cake to be ground, but with a small lacquered box. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, is a whisk, a chassin identical to the one you have been training with. It is yours, and alongside it, a simple, dark Jianware bowl, not as magnificent as the master's rabbit fur treasure, but beautiful in its own right, its glaze the color of a stormy night sky. There is an invitation, written on a slip of fine paper, to a ducha, a tea competition, to be held in the gardens of a wealthy salt merchant. Your master has entered your name. There is no discussion, no asking if you feel ready. His giving you the tools is the command. It is his belief, made manifest in bamboo and clay. The fear that prickles your skin is cold and sharp, but it is mingled with a current of undeniable excitement. The day of the competition arrives, bathed in the soft, hazy light of late autumn. You walk beside your master through the bustling streets of Kaifeng, carrying your new tools, wrapped carefully in silk, in the box he gave you. You feel a strange sense of detachment from the world around you, the shouts of the vendors, the rumble of the carts. It all seems distant, a noise from another world. Your world has shrunk to the weight of the ceramic bowl, dot, in your hands, and the memory of the whisk's motion. The salt merchant's estate is an oasis of calm and manufactured nature behind high white walls. You pass through a moon gate into a garden of exquisite design. A carp pond reflects the weeping willows, and meticulously arranged rocks mimic distant mountain ranges. The air here is clean, smelling of damp earth and late-blooming osmanthus. The competition is held in an open-air pavilion overlooking the garden. Other competitors are already there, arranging their stations at low tables. They are a formidable sight. There are old men with long, wispy beards and the serene, unreadable faces of those who have whisked 10,000 bowls of tea. There are also young men like yourself, dressed in fine robes, their faces taut with ambition. They eye each other's equipment with practiced nonchalance, judging the quality of a tea jar, the elegance of a water ewer. Historians still argue whether these contests were truly about the tea, or if they were elaborate social rituals, a way for ambitious men to network and for wealthy merchants to flaunt their exquisite taste. Standing here, you feel the truth is, in the middle, the air is thick with both aesthetic reverence and quiet, ruthless ambition. Ambition. You find your assigned spot and begin to lay out your tools, your movements slow and deliberate, mimicking the calm you wish you felt. Your master gives you one final look, a silent instruction to remember your training, and then recedes to join the spectators. You are alone. A hush falls over the pavilion as the judges take their seats. They are three men, renowned connoisseurs, their faces stern and impassive. The head judge announces the rules, his voice carrying clearly in the still air. The competition will have two primary criteria. First, the appearance of the tea, the quality of the froth, its color, its density, its fine texture. Second, and more decisively, the zhanyao, the bite of the bowl. After the tea is tasted, the one whose foam clings longest to the sides of the bowl, leaving the least amount of watery residue, will be declared the winner. It is a test of skill that leaves no room for luck. The first round begins. A servant brings you a small portion of the designated tea cake, a high-grade offering from a famed Fujian estate. The contest is not about the quality of the leaf, which is the same for everyone, but what the artist can do with it. You begin to grind, the familiar, smooth whisper of the stone. Millicomfort. You focus on the task, shutting out the intimidating figures around you, shutting out the expectant silence of the crowd. You persuade the cake into a fine, ethereal powder. You warm your new bowl, the simple, honest weight of it familiar in your hands. You measure the powder with your bamboo scoop. You pour the water, the steam rising to kiss your face. And then you whisk. Your wrist is a leaf in the wind, light and free. The bamboo tines fly across the bottom of the bowl. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The sound is your heartbeat. You are not in a garden. You are not in a competition. You are back in the quiet room with your master, chasing the ghost of a perfect froth. The foam rises, pale and thick. You guide it, smooth it, coaxing it into a creamy, flawless surface. You stop, lifting the whisk. It is good. The surface is like piled snow. You place the bowl forward for the judges. You watch as the judges inspect the creations. They lean over the bowls, their sharp eyes missing nothing. They murmur to each other. One of the older masters, a man with a reputation that precedes him, has produced a truly wondrous bowl, but then you see him do something else. After presenting his initial froth, he takes a small dropper and, with impossibly fine tea liquid, begins to paint upon the foam. A delicate bird, perched on a bamboo stalk, appears on the surface of his tea. It is chabezi, tea painting, a legendary skill you have only heard whispers of. A ripple of appreciation goes through the spectators. It's a bit like a musician adding an unplanned, brilliant solo to their performance. It's magnificent, but also, you can't help but think, a little bit of a cheap trick. The judges eventually arrive at your station. They examine your bowl for a long moment. One of them nods, almost imperceptibly. Then they take their sips. They hold the tea, their expressions unreadable, and then swallow. They set the bowls down and step back, and now the final, silent test begins. You watch your bowl, your breath held in your chest. The foam is clinging. A stubborn, beautiful ring of white against the dark ceramic. Next to yours, you see the foam on another competitor's bowl begin to collapse, a watery line appearing between the froth and the glaze. His shoulders slump. You look back to your own. The line is holding. It holds, and it holds. The magnificent painting of the bird has long since dissolved into a muddy mess, but your simple, honest foam remains. You do not win the entire competition. That honor goes to an older master, whose foam was as tenacious as your own, but whose taste the judges deemed slightly superior. But you win your round. You have stood among masters and held your own. As you pack your tools, your hands no longer shaking, the salt merchant himself approaches you. He compliments your skill, your focus. He speaks of needing a reliable supplier of high-quality tea for his household. He is talking to you not as an apprentice, but as an equal. Your master watches from a distance, a flicker of something. Pride? Satisfaction? In his eyes. The walk home feels different. The city is still loud. The streets are still crowded, but it no longer feels like a machine. You are a tiny cog in. It feels like a place where you belong. You have found your language, and today, for the first time, others have begun to understand it. The years have a way of polishing a man, much like a river smooths a stone. The sharp edges of your ambition, the anxieties of competition, have long since been worn away, leaving a quiet, settled calm. You are the master of the tea house now. The man who taught you, who gave you your first proper bowl, has been dust for 2 decades. You sleep in his old room upstairs, and sometimes, in the dead of night, you think you can hear the faint echo of his snoring, a sound that no longer signals urgency, but a strange sort of comfort. The city of Kaifeng has changed too. The Jurchen invaders came and went, a brutal storm that shook the empire to its core. The capital moved south, and the city's grandest days are now a memory. But the people remain, and the people still drink tea. Your day no longer begins with the grating scrape of a broom, or the agonizing weight of water buckets. It begins with the creak of your own knees, a gentle reminder of the seasons you have witnessed. You sit at your favorite table, the one your master favored, and watch the morning light spill through the shutters you once struggled to open. You have an apprentice now, a clumsy boy from a village to the west, all sharp elbows and earnest, fearful eyes. You watch him sweep the floor, and you see a ghost of yourself in his awkward movements. He drops a cleaning rag, and you consider scolding him, but then you remember the small fortune in precious tea cakes you wasted learning to whisk. Besides, getting up from this stool before you've had your morning bowl would be a whole project in itself. The nature of the requests has changed. The art of Dian Cha, the whisked tea that was the center of your universe, is becoming a curiosity. One afternoon, a young merchant, his clothes cut in a fashion that seems strange and new to you, asks not for a bowl of whisked tea, but simply for a pinch of good leaves to be placed in a cup, with hot water poured over them. He wants to let them steep. You look at him for a long moment. It is the new style, trickling down from the south, favored by the new Ming rulers. Simple, unadorned. There is no powder to be ground, no froth to be coaxed into existence. It's fine. It's hot water with leaves floating in it. A revolutionary concept, apparently. Much less work, certainly, which seems to be its primary virtue. You prepare it for him, of course. A master must adapt, but as you watch him sip the pale yellow-green infusion, you feel a quiet pang of loss. What has become of the pursuit of the snowy froth? The delight in a perfect, creamy head? The drama of the jianyao, the bite of the bowl? These new drinkers seem less interested in the texture and more in the fragrance. They bring you leaves scented with jasmine and osmanthus flowers. A practice you find pleasant enough, but it feels like masking the true soul of the tea rather than revealing it. You remember the old aristocrats in their rumored crocodile dung face dut creams and wonder if this is just another passing fad, a strange diversion before people return to their senses. But in your heart, you suspect this change is here to stay. Later generations will debate whether the art of Dian Cha collapsed under its own weight, whether its rituals had become too elaborate, too freighted with the snobbery of scholars and elites. Perhaps its demise was simply a matter of taste, a collective, turning away from the bitter intensity of the powdered green tea toward something lighter, simpler. You do not have the answers. You only know that your treasured bamboo whisk, the one your master gave you all those years ago, sees less and less use. It sits in its box, a relic from a more complicated time, in the quiet of the late afternoon, after the last customer has gone, and your own apprentice is busy with the evening chores. You find yourself alone in the small back room. The light is fading, turning the world outside the window into soft shades of orange and purple. On an impulse, you retrieve your oldest tools, the heavy jianware bowl, its stormy night glaze now crisscrossed with a fine web of cracks from 1,000 warmings. The bamboo whisk, its tine slightly frayed but still elegant. You grind a small amount of a fine tea cake, one of the last you have from a supplier who even remembers how to make them properly. The circular motion of the mill is as familiar as your own breathing. The soft whisper of the stone on the cake is a song you have known your entire life. You perform the ritual not for a judge or a wealthy patron, but for yourself. You warm the bowl, you scoop the powder, you pour the water from the long-spouted ewer, its steam carrying the deep, earthy scent of your youth, and you whisk. Your wrist is not as fast as it once was, and a slight tremor of age runs through your hand, but the muscle memory is deep. The sound fills the small room, a frantic, gentle prayer. The foam rises. It is not the perfect, snow-white peak of your competition days, but it is thick, and it is creamy, and it is yours. You lift the bowl, its warmth seeping into your palms, and take a sip. The taste is strong, wonderfully bitter, and profoundly alive. It is the taste of 1,000 mornings, spent in labor, of 100 failed attempts, of a single perfect nod of approval. It is the taste of your life. Your name was never recorded in the emperor's official treatises on tea. You never painted birds on froth to dazzle a crowd, but your name has been spoken with quiet respect in this small corner of this enduring city for 50 years, and unlike the great Song Dynasty itself, this humble tea house still stands. You take another slow sip, the foam clinging stubbornly to the side of the bowl, holding its ground against the gentle tides of time, the meticulous art of Japanese calligraphy. All the air in the room is still and cool, carrying the faint, clean scent of tatami mats and old wood. You are kneeling in the formal seiza position, and your ankles are already beginning to register a gentle complaint. Outside the paper of the shoji screen, the world hums along, the distant call of a street vendor, the gentle chime of a wind bell. But in here, silence has a weight and texture all its own. Your teacher, your sensei, kneels opposite you. He is a man who seems to be carved from patience itself, his movements so economical and serene that he barely seems to disturb the air around him. He has not spoken a word for 10 minutes. You, in turn, have tried to match his stillness, focusing on your breathing and trying very hard not to think about the pins and needles that are plotting a full-scale insurrection in your left foot. Finally, he makes a slow, deliberate gesture, unrolling a rectangle of dark silk on the low lacquered table between you. Upon this small stage, he begins to arrange the stars of today's lesson. These are the Bunbo Shiho, the four treasures of the study. He doesn't call them tools. He doesn't call them equipment. He calls them treasures. And the way he handles them, with a reverence typically reserved for holy relics, makes you believe it. First, he places the brush. It is not like any brush you have ever seen. It rests on a small ceramic holder. Its handle a simple, smooth shaft of bamboo. Its tip a tuft of impossibly soft hair that tapers to a needle-fine point. Your sensei picks it up, holding it as lightly as if it were a dragonfly. He explains that the hairs can come from many animals: goat for softness, weasel for springiness, horse for resilience. Each brush has its own spirit, its own personality. You must learn to understand it, to befriend it. It's a bit like being handed a pet you're not allowed to cuddle and whose cooperation is essential for your future success. You wonder briefly if the weasels and goats knew what a noble contribution they were making to the arts. Next, he lays down a sheet of washi, the paper. It seems almost alive in the soft light filtering through the screen. It is pale and creamy, and you can see the fine, delicate fibers of the mulberry bark from which it was made, tangled together like a cloud. It is not the slick, dead white of modern paper. This surface has a subtle texture, a tooth that will grip the ink, that will drink it in and make it a part of its varied being. It is thin, almost translucent, and you feel that a misplaced breath could tear it. It waits. It is a canvas of pure potential, a silent dare. The third treasure he places on the silk is the Suzuri, the inkstone. It lands with a soft, definitive thud. Unlike the other treasures, this one has an undeniable presence, a physical gravity. It is a solid, heavy slate of dark gray stone, polished smooth by time and use. Its surface is not entirely flat. There is a raised portion, the hill or oka, and a recessed well, the sea or umai. It feels ancient, like a piece of a mountain that has been tamed and taught a single, noble purpose. You get the feeling that if you were to drop it, it would damage the floor, the house, and possibly the planet's orbital path. It feels heavier than your commitment to this entire endeavor, and you haven't even started yet. Then comes the final treasure, the one that will bring the others to life. The sumi, the ink stick. It is a simple, rectangular block of what looks like black stone, but it's light in your hand. One side is embossed with elegant characters, the maker's name, perhaps a line of poetry. Your sensei invites you to hold it, to feel its texture, to smell it. You bring it closer, and you're met with a strange, dry, and deeply pleasant fragrance. It's a cool, calming scent, like a forest floor after a rain, with a faint hint of something like musk or spice. This, he explains, is no simple block of soot. It is made from the finest pine soot, harvested from carefully controlled kilns, mixed with a delicate animal glue, often from deer hide, and perfumed with musk and camphor to ward off insects and to aid in the calm of the calligrapher. This scented glue is a quirky, fringed tidbit of the craft, a secret ingredient for the soul as much as the ink. The preparation, your sensei explains without speaking, is the beginning of the art. He places a few drops of clean water into the wincia of the inkstone. He picks up the inkstick and he begins to grind. He holds the stick perfectly upright, his movements slow, patient, and circular. There is no sound but a soft rhythmic shh as the hard ink meets the wet stone. His eyes are half closed. His breathing is deep and even. His entire being seems focused on this one simple, repetitive task, persuading the solid ink to become a liquid. This isn't a chore to be rushed through. This is the meditation before the meditation. It is the original mindfulness app, only it comes with a much higher chance of permanently staining your favorite tunic. He tells you that this whole practice, the way of writing known as shodo, came to Japan from China centuries ago, carried by Buddhist monks who used calligraphy to copy sacred sutras. The four treasures, the reverence for the tools, the very characters you will learn to write, All of it began across the sea. Historians still argue whether the earliest Japanese calligraphy was simply a faithful imitation of the great Chinese masters, or if it immediately began to develop its own unique, more fluid. Watching your sensei, whose movements seem so quintessentially Japanese in their focused calm, you feel that the spirit of this place has surely made the art its own. After what seems like an eternity of this gentle whispering sound, he stops. The water in the inkstone is no longer water. It is a pool of deep, lustrous black, as dark and glossy as a raven's wing. He tests it with the brush, drawing a line on a spare piece of paper. The color is rich, the edges are sharp. It is ready. He cleans the inkstick and carefully dries it, explaining that leaving it wet would cause it to crack and crumble, a sign of profound disrespect for the tool. Now it is your turn. He rinses the stone, places a few fresh drops of water in its sea, and hands you the inkstick. You take it, your movements clumsy and loud. After his fluid silence, you begin to grind. You press too hard, and the sound is a grating scrape. You press too lightly, and nothing happens. Your circle is wobbly. Your mind is not on the ink, it's on your aching ankles, on the fear of failure, on the intense, silent scrutiny of the man sitting opposite you. Softer, he says, his voice the first sound in an age. Let the stone do the work. Your mind should be in the ink. It should be as dark and as quiet as the pool you are creating. You close your eyes. You breathe. You try to focus only on the sound, on the feeling of the stick in your hand. Shh. Slowly, the grating becomes a whisper. Slowly, the water begins to darken. You have not yet picked up a brush. You have not yet touched the pristine paper. But your training in the art of calligraphy has already begun. The pool of ink you have ground is deep and silent. A small circle of night on the gray stone. Your sensei inspects it, not by looking, but by dipping the tip of his own brush into it and drawing a quick, fluid line on a scrap of paper. He nods, a gesture so small it is barely a movement at all. The ink is worthy. Your first trial is complete. Now, the real trial begins. He gestures for you to take up your new brush, the one with the weasel hair core that promises such lively springiness. You pick it up, and it feels alien in your hand. He corrects your grip, repositioning your fingers. It's not held like a Western pen, a tool of frantic scratching. It's held vertically, delicately, by the thumb, index, and middle fingers, with the arm suspended, unsupported, from the shoulder. The power, he explains, comes not from the fingers but from the belly, the hara. You are to write with your entire body, a concept your aching ankles find deeply concerning. He takes a fresh sheet of the washi paper, that beautiful, terrifyingly blank canvas, and places it before him. He dips his brush into the ink you prepared, charging it with the dark liquid. He holds it poised above the paper for a long, silent moment. In this space, this pause, the entire character already exists in his mind. Then, his hand moves. It is a single, fluid dance of 8 distinct movements, executed in a few seconds. When he lifts the brush, a character lies on the paper. It is stark, beautiful, and pulsing with a strange energy. It is the character Iayong, meaning eternity. It looks simple enough. You've seen it 1,000 times, but the one he has just drawn, it seems more alive than the ones printed in books. The lines vary in thickness. The beginning of a stroke is sharp and defined. The end tapers to a whisper. The ink is jet black in some places and has a subtle, almost dry texture in others. It is perfect. It is infuriating. This character, your sensei says, his voice low and steady, is your new teacher. It contains everything you need to know. He then points with the handle of his brush to the different parts of the character he just drew. He explains the Eiji Happo, the 8 principles of the character I. This single, humble character contains the 8 fundamental strokes of calligraphy. Master this, and you have the key to unlocking all the others. It is the alphabet and the masterwork rolled into one. It seems like an efficient, if rather intense, teaching method. He breaks it down for you. The first stroke, a simple dot at the top high 10, must be made not like a jab, but like a hawk swooping down on its prey. The second, a horizontal line, yoko, is not a dead straight rule, but must feel like a cloud stretching 1,000 miles. The vertical line, tate, must be like a sturdy pine tree, strong and unbending. The hookane at the end of the vertical line must have the force of a crossbow, bolt being released. As he describes them, you begin to see it. This isn't writing. This is a form of highly controlled miniature landscape painting using abstract forms. Now it is your turn. A fresh sheet of washi is placed before you. It seems to mock you with its flawless, creamy surface. You dip your new brush in the ink. You hold it aloft, trying to channel the preemptive calm your sensei demonstrated. Your mind is not calm. It is a frantic bestiary of swooping hawks, 1,000-mile clouds, and crossbows. You put the brush to paper. The dot is a blob. The horizontal line is shaky and timid. The vertical line wavers, and when you attempt the hook, a great ugly smudge of ink bleeds outwards. A dark stain of failure. The character for eternity looks like it died a painful death moments after its birth. It is a disaster. You look up, expecting a sigh, a frown, a quiet but devastating judgment. Your sensei simply says again, and so begins your journey into eternity. You spend the rest of the day, and the next day, and the week after that, filling sheet after sheet of paper with your monstrously deformed EI characters. Your failures are varied and creative. Some are too wet, the ink bleeding into fuzzy caterpillars. Some are too dry, the lines skeletal and scratchy. Some are stiff and lifeless, a collection of strokes that refuse to speak to one another. The pile of rejected paper grows into a small mountain of your own inadequacy. Learning the character for eternity is, you reflect with a touch of weary sarcasm. Taking an eternity, your sensei offers corrections that are as cryptic as they are infrequent. Feel the bone in the stroke, he says, pointing to one of your limp, spineless lines. The ink must have breath. You nod as if you understand, but you have no idea how to give breath to a puddle of soot and glue. You learn about the life of the brush itself. Some masters, it said, were so attached to their favorite brush that they were buried with it, a quirky final tribute to a faithful partner. Your own brush currently feels less like a partner and more like a stubborn, uncooperative mule. During one long afternoon of frustrating practice, your sensei tells you that scholars still debate whether the 8 principles were a rigid set of rules from the beginning or a concept that was retrospectively applied to the work of the great Chinese masters, a way of deconstructing their genius after the fact. He wonders aloud if Wang Shiji, the ancient sage of calligraphy, ever thought about swooping hawks, or if he just drew. This is meant to be profound, you think, but it mostly makes you wonder if you could just skip to the part where you draw and somehow absorb the knowledge through osmosis. The answer, judging by the fresh stack of paper he places before you, is a definitive no. Slowly and perceptibly, something begins to shift. It's not a conscious change. You cannot pinpoint the moment it happens. But one afternoon, your arm, your wrist, and your mind are so tired from the effort that you simply stop trying so hard. You let go. You breathe, and you draw the character. The dot is not a blob. It has a head and a tail. The horizontal stroke has a subtle strength. The hook is sharp and clean. It is not perfect. It is not your sensei's work. But it is not dead. It has a flicker of life, a hint of bone. It has breath. You look at it, this one. Lonely success, swimming in a sea of failures. You slide it over to your sensei. He picks it up and holds it for a long time. He looks from the paper to your face and back again. He says nothing. He simply goes to the shelf and gets you a new ink stick, a slightly better quality one this time. The gesture is as loud as a shout. You have mastered the first word in this new, silent language. You have learned the shape of eternity. The rest of your life will be spent learning to speak it fluently. No, having survived your lengthy tour of duty with a character for eternity, you might have expected to move on to, say, a different word, perhaps something jaunty and encouraging, like joy or success. Instead, your sensei decides it is time to focus not on what you write, but on how you write. The technical proficiency, the mastery of the 8 principles, was merely the foundation. Now, you must build the house, and in this house, the architecture is invisible. It is made of spirit and mind. You are about to be introduced to the decidedly non-jaunty concepts that form the philosophical heart of Shodo. Your lessons begin to change. There is less frantic doing and more quiet sitting. Before you even pick up a brush, your sensei now insists on a period of meditation. You are to empty your mind, to let the frantic chatter of the day, the price of rice, the weather, that one particularly wobbly floorboard in the hallway, simply drift away. He calls this state mushin, or no mind. The idea is to allow the brush to move without the interference of your conscious, critical thought. You are to become a pure conduit for the character to express itself. It sounds wonderfully profound, but your early attempts at mushin feel more like every mind. The harder you try to think about nothing, the more your brain helpfully offers up a parade of every embarrassing memory and stray thought you've ever had. Remember that time you tripped over the water bucket? Your brain does, and it's happy to play the highlight reel right now. The sensei, who seems to be able to achieve a state of serene emptiness at will, explains that the brushstroke is a mirror. It reveals everything. Your hesitation, your arrogance, your fear, your impatience. It all shows up in the ink. A shaky line is not a failure of the hand, it is a failure of the spirit. A blunt, heavy stroke is not an excess of ink. It is an excess of ego. To perfect your calligraphy, you must first perfect your mind. This is a significantly taller order than learning 8 simple strokes. It's a lifetime's work, and you begin to suspect that calligraphy is just a very beautiful, very elaborate trick to get you into therapy. He introduces you to the concept of kukanbi, the beauty of empty space. He lays 2 of your old practice sheets side by side. One is crowded with characters, a desperate attempt to fill the page. The other has but a single character, the one that had a flicker of life. Which is more beautiful, he asks. The answer is obvious. The single character has room to breathe. The empty space around it, the yohaku, is not empty at all. It is an active part of the composition, giving power and definition to the ink. The character needs the silence of the paper to be heard. You start to understand that what you don't write is just as important as what you do. Your training now involves not just writing, but also looking. Your sensei unrolls scrolls from his collection, ancient works by masters long dead. You look at the fluid, dancing lines of a poem written in Sosho, the highly cursive grass script that is so abbreviated, it is almost abstract art. You study the formal, dignified characters of Kaisho, the block script you learned, and see how, even within that structure, each master had a unique voice. One quirky historical figure you study is the Buddhist monk Ikkyu Sojun, a famously eccentric master from a few centuries back. He was known for his wild, unconventional calligraphy and his equally wild, unconventional life, which often involved thumbing his nose at the stuffy, religious establishment and spending a great deal of time in sake parlors. His calligraphy was powerful and uninhibited, a perfect reflection of his rebellious spirit. His life is a comforting reminder that not all great masters were serene, silent types who only meditated. Some were apparently just very good at multitasking. You learn that every element of the final work is a choice. Where to place the first character, how much space to leave between the lines, where to sign your name and press your seal. Each decision shapes the final energy of the piece. Your sensei speaks of bokusho, the ink spirit. It refers to the shades and textures within a single brushstroke. The deep, wet black at the beginning of a line. The subtle gray and the dry, scratchy texture, the coiffure, as the ink runs out towards the end. This is not a mistake. It is a feature. It is the breath of the ink, showing the rhythm and speed of the stroke. You had been trying so hard to create perfectly uniform dead lines. Now you must learn to let them live and die on the page. Historians and philosophers still argue whether shodo is primarily an art form or a spiritual discipline. Is the goal a beautiful object to be hung on a wall, or is the object merely the byproduct of a quest for inner harmony? Your sensei seems to operate on the principle that it is both, and that the two are inseparable. The beautiful object is impossible without the inner harmony. As you kneel in the quiet room, trying to find that elusive state of no mind, you begin to feel the truth in that the physical and the spiritual are not separate. The body, the breath, the mind, the brush, the ink, the paper, they are all part of one continuous flow. One afternoon, your sensei doesn't ask you to write a character at all. He asks you to draw an enso, a circle, the simplest and most difficult of subjects. You are to draw it in a single, fluid stroke. He demonstrates. His brush descends, moves in a perfect, unbroken arc, and lifts. On the paper lies a circle, not geometrically flawless, but alive. It is both full and empty, a symbol of the void, the universe. Enlightenment. He says that the state of the artist's mind can be seen in the drawing of a single circle. Yours, when you attempt it, looks less like the universe and more like a slightly deflated tire. It is wobbly, the connection point is awkward, and the ink is blotchy. It is a perfect portrait of your striving, conflicted soul. He looks at your sad circle, then at you. The circle is already perfect in your mind, he says. You are just getting in the way. It's the most profound and frustrating piece of advice you've ever received. You take a deep breath, pick up another sheet of paper, and prepare to get out of your own way. The seasons have turned many times since you first drew that deflated tire of a circle. The boy with the aching ankles is now a man with a quiet strength in his shoulders and a calm that has been earned, not feigned. Your sensei is gone. He passed as he lived, with quiet dignity, leaving you the small house, the inkstones, and the immense, silent weight of his legacy. You are the master now, though you rarely use the title. The world outside the shoji screen has grown louder, faster. But in this room, the scent of tatami and ink remains a constant, a shield against the frantic pace of the new era. You have students of your own now. They come to you, their minds full of chatter, their hands eager and clumsy. You watch them struggle with the inkstone, their first grindings a harsh, grating sound that sets your teeth on edge. You teach them the 8 principles of I, and you watch them produce their own mountains of failed eternities. You correct their grip, you tell them to breathe from their belly, and you offer the same cryptic advice your master gave you. Feel the bone in the stroke, you say, and you see the same look of polite confusion you once wore. You try to teach them about mushin, about letting go, but you know it is a lesson that cannot be taught, only learned through years of quiet failure. Today, however, there are no students. The house is silent save for the hum of a lone cicada in the garden. You have a commission. A wealthy family wishes for a scroll to hang in their home. A single character, Michi Dod, meaning way or path. It is a character of profound significance, the central concept of Taoism, the very way of Shodo itself. For this, you will not use your everyday teaching tools from a Paulownia woodbox. You retrieve your own treasures. The brush is one you have had for 20 years, made of weasel and goat hair, its bamboo handle worn smooth and dark from the oils of your hand. It is no longer a tool. It is an extension of your arm, of your mind. Your inkstone is a deep, dark green slate. A gift from your master, its sea worn into a gentle curve by decades of his grinding and your own. You perform the ritual of preparation, but it is no longer a conscious act. It is second nature, as automatic and necessary as breathing. You pour the clear water into the stone sea. You pick up a fine inkstick, one perfumed with sandalwood and bornol, and you begin to grind. Shh. The sound is the pulse of the silent room. As the inkstick moves in your hand, your mind travels back. You remember the frustration of your first attempts, the hot flush of shame at a blotched character. You remember the quiet satisfaction of that first successful EI. The day your master gave you a better inkstick without a word. You remember him demonstrating the enso, the perfect circle that contained the universe. Your path has been long. The ink is ready. It is a pool of liquid velvet, its fragrance filling the small room, calming the last stray thoughts in your mind. You unroll a large sheet of fine washi, its surface pristine, expectant. You kneel before it, your posture straight, your breathing deep and slow. You take up your brush and charge it with the dark ink. You hold it, poised above the paper. You are not thinking about the swooping hawk or the 1,000-mile cloud. You are not thinking about the wealthy patron or the finished scroll. You are not thinking at all. There is only the breath, the brush, and the empty space. Your mind is still. Mushin, then you move, the brush descends. The first stroke of the character is confident and full of life. Your arm, your body, moves as a single unit. The strokes flow one into the next, a dance of controlled energy. There is speed and there is stillness. There is the rich, wet black of the bokusho where the brush is full, and there is the beautiful, scratchy quasar as it runs dry on a sweeping horizontal line. The final complex part of the character, the radical that means neck or head, is executed with a series of quick, sharp turns. You lift the brush. The character Michi lies on the paper. You look at it. It is not the work of a machine. It is flawed. A tiny, unplanned splash of ink sits near the top, like a distant star. One line is slightly thinner than you might have planned. But it is alive. It has bone and breath and spirit. It is a portrait of this one unrepeatable moment. It is a signature of your soul. Historians of the future may debate the precise meaning and evolution of these ancient characters, but the meaning of this one right now is clear. It is a testament to a life spent in pursuit of a quiet, impossible perfection. You carefully take out your personal seal, your hanko, a small piece of stone into which your chosen artistic name is carved. You press it into the thick red seal paste, and in the designated lower corner of the paper, you press the seal. The vermilion square is the final touch of warmth, the artist's mark, a small, bright anchor in the sea of black and white. Your work is done. You will let it dry, then have it mounted by a scroll maker. It will hang in a stranger's home, and perhaps, on a quiet afternoon, someone will look at it and feel a sense of peace, or wonder at the energy contained in the lines. They will not know of the aching ankles or the mountains of failed paper. They will not know of the patient master or the endless grinding of ink. They will only see the path, and that is as it should be. The way is not in the destination, but in the journey, and your journey, is still far from over. You clean your brush, your stone, and your hands, and prepare for tomorrow when you will try once more to draw a perfect circle. A night in the life of a Victorian lamplighter, Lealia. The day is breathing its last, a long, slow exhalation of bruised purple and faded orange into the gray throat of the London sky. From your small attic window, you can see the rooftops begin to dissolve into a hazy silhouette, the sharp lines of chimneys and slate tiles, blurring at the edges. A damp chill, the city's constant companion, is beginning to creep through the cracks in the window frame, carrying with it the familiar layered perfume of the capital. Coal smoke, damp earth, horse manure, and the distant, ever-present tang of the river. It's a scent that would be considered a biohazard today, but to you, it is simply the smell of home. This is the gloaming, the in-between time, and it is your signal to begin. Your bones have their own internal clock, and they are groaning in perfect time with the setting sun. You push yourself up from the lumpy mattress, the straw-filled ticking, rustling a quiet protest. The day's work for others is ending, but yours is just starting. On the wall hangs your uniform, if you could call it that, a thick, dark wool coat, its nap worn smooth in patches, a sturdy cap to keep the worst of the drizzle from your eyes. But the true tools of your trade rest in the corner, waiting with the silent patience of old friends. First, there is the ladder. It is your most cumbersome and most essential companion. Made of lightweight pine, it is designed for speed and portability, not for comfort or, frankly, any reassuring sense of stability. It's surprisingly light, yet its 7-foot length makes navigating a crowded pavement a special kind of art form. You hoist it onto your shoulder, the familiar pressure a reminder of the thousands of lamps that await you. Then the pole. It is a long, slender rod of polished wood, tipped with a small brass fitting that holds a burning wick, sheltered from the wind. This is for the newer gas lamps, a quicker method that doesn't require the climb. You also have your trimmers, your cloths for cleaning the glass, and a small flask of whale oil for the few remaining stubborn, old-fashioned lamps on your route. All told, it's an awkward, ungainly collection of items that marks you as clearly as any uniform. You descend the narrow, creaking stairs of the tenement building. The sounds and smells intensify as you get closer to the ground floor. The lingering aroma of boiled cabbage from Mrs. Higgins's flat, the sharp cry of a baby from another. You step out into the street, and the city envelops you. The relative quiet of dusk is a fiction. Carriages rattle over the cobblestones, their own lamps beginning to glow. The voices of people returning from work or heading out to evening entertainments weave together into a low, constant hum. You settle the ladder on your shoulder, find your grip on your pole, and begin to walk, your posture and gait defined by the tools you carry. Your route begins in a respectable, though not quite fashionable, square. The first lamppost stands like a cast-iron sentinel at the corner. It's one of the new gas lamps, a source of civic pride and, for you, a slightly easier start to the night. There is no need for the ladder here. You unhook your long pole, its end already fitted with a lit, alcohol-soaked wick from the hearth in your room. You reach up, using the small hook on the pole to turn the gas cock. There is a soft, almost imperceptible hiss. Then you touch the wick to the mantle. Thwoomp! A soft, almost gentle explosion of light blossoms into life behind the glass. It casts a warm, golden circle on the pavement, pushing back the encroaching shadows. It's a small, satisfying moment of creation, repeated 100 times a night. This gaslight is a modern marvel, a testament to the fact that London was the first city in the world to be lit this way on a grand scale. To the gentlemen who stroll through this square, it is a symbol of progress, of safety, of the taming of the night. To you, it is simply lamp number 1. It is also notoriously fickle. Some nights, the pressure is low, and the light is a sad, anemic flicker. Others, a bubble of water in the pipe, will cause it to sputter and pop like a string of tiny, rumpy fireworks. As you move to the next lamp, a child on the pavement points and shouts, "Look, Mama!" It's the Leary, a common nickname for your kind, borrowed from the north. You touch the brim of your cap. Some people imagine your job is a romantic one, that you are a kind of athletic performer, dancing from lamp to lamp. And indeed, Some of the younger, sprier lads do move with a certain theatrical flourish. You, however, prefer a steady, ground-covering pace that prioritizes not getting a splinter from your ladder over impressing a handful of onlookers. Historians still argue whether the Lamplighter was seen as a trusted public servant, a guardian of the night, or just another menial laborer, a step above a sewer flusher or a chimney sweep. From where you stand, it feels like you are mostly invisible. You exist in the background, a piece of the city's machinery. People notice the light you bring, but they rarely notice the hand that brings it. You are appreciated in the abstract, but ignored in the particular. You pass a pie shop, the warm scent of baking pastry a brief, delicious torment, and move on to lamp number 2, then number 3. Each one surrenders to your pole with that same soft whoop, adding another pool of light to the growing chain. You are drawing a map of safety across the darkening face of the city, a line of tiny, man-made stars against the gathering gloom. The night is long, and your shoulder is already beginning to ache, but the rhythm is set. You trudge onward, a quiet, solitary priest of the flame. You leave the orderly, respectable square behind, your footfalls echoing a little too loudly in its genteel quiet. The easy part of the night is over. The neat rows of gas lamps, with their convenient cocks and instantaneous light, give way to a more chaotic and sprawling part of your route. You turn into a street that is less a thoroughfare and more a long, narrow artery, clogged with the clot and flow of London life. And here, the lamps are older. They are stubborn holdouts from a previous generation, still burning oil, and they demand a more personal, hands-on approach. They demand the latter. The first oil lamp stands on a slight lean, like a man tired of listening to the wind. You swing the ladder from your shoulder, its wooden legs clattering onto the cobblestones. The sound is sharp in the damp air. You lean it against the cold iron of the post, ensuring its footing is secure on the uneven stones. It's a practice motion, one you could do in your sleep. And some nights you feel as if you are. Then comes the climb. Each rung is familiar to the soles of your worn boots. The world tilts and shrinks as you ascend, the clamor of the street receding slightly below you. You are now level with the second-story windows of the surrounding buildings, offering you a brief, flickering glimpse into other lives. A family gathered around a dinner table, a solitary figure reading by a candle. At the top, you balance, one hand gripping the post, the other reaching out to open the lamp's glass housing. A gust of wind funnels down the street, making the ladder sway in a way that always tightens a knot in your stomach. You are intimately aware that a fall from this height wouldn't kill you, but it would almost certainly cost you your job, which feels like the same thing. Inside the lamp, the old wick is a blackened, sad little stump. You take out your trimmers and give it a neat haircut, removing the charred bits so it will burn cleanly. Then, you uncap the small flask at your belt and top up the reservoir with whale oil. The smell is distinctive, oily, slightly fishy, the scent of a creature from the deep ocean brought to this grimy city street to hold back the dark. Some of the poorer folk have been known to try and steal this oil from the lamps, a crime that seems both desperate and rather ambitious. You'd have to be quite motivated to climb 12 feet in the dark for a thimbleful of smelly fish grease. With the lamp refilled and the wick trimmed, you take out a friction match, a lucifer, from a tin box, strike it on the sole of your boot, and bring the tiny sputtering flame to the wick. It catches, at first a small, timid yellow, then it swells into a soft, warm, living glow. This light is different from the harsh, white glare of the gaslight. It is softer, warmer, more organic. It flickers and dances, casting animated shadows that writhe and leap on the walls. It feels less like an invention and more like a captured spirit. You close the glass, take a moment to wipe away the worst of the grime with your cloth, and then begin your descent, ladder back on the shoulder. On to the next. This street is a river of commerce and noise. Pub doors swing open, spilling light, and the raucous sound of off-key singing into the street. The windows of a draper's shop are filled with ghostly mannequins. A cook from a chop house stands in a doorway, taking a break, the steam from his kitchen billowing around him like a halo. You are a moving obstacle, a silent, shuffling inconvenience in the midst of all this frantic energy. You murmur apologies as your ladder clips a gentleman's top hat, receiving a satisfyingly incoherent grumble in return. Your job has its small pleasures. You work your way down the street, a steady rhythm of clatter, climb, trim, light, descend. You are a tireless, methodical firefly, leaving a trail of gentle, golden blossoms in your wake. Historians still argue whether the widespread introduction of streetlights truly reduced crime or simply displaced it, pushing footpads and cut purses into the darker alleys and unlit spaces between your lamps. As you pass a narrow, black gap between two buildings, an alley that seems to have swallowed all light and sound, you feel the argument is academic. The darkness is still there, vast and deep. You are merely chipping away at its edges. The pools of light you create feel more like tiny, fortified islands in a great, dark ocean than a unified front. Many lamplighting positions are passed from father to son, a steady trade if you have the constitution for the night hours and the damp. Your own father walked these same streets, though with a heavier ladder and less reliable oil. He taught you the route, the quirks of each lamp, the houses where a dog was likely to bark all night, the pub landlord who might offer you a cup of something hot on a bitter night. It's a mainstream historical fact that the various gas companies competed fiercely, laying their pipes in a chaotic, overlapping grid beneath the city. This resulted in a patchwork of service, where one street might have brilliant gaslight and the next, just around the corner, would be stuck with sputtering old oil lamps. This is why your route is a frustrating mix of technologies, forcing you to carry the tools for both. You're a walking museum of illumination technology. Leaving the commercial street, your route takes you into a labyrinth of narrow residential lanes. Here, the buildings lean in close, their upper stories almost touching, creating a man-made canyon that the sky has all but abandoned. The lamps are fewer and farther between. The silence here is different, heavier. You are more aware of your own footsteps, of the creak of the ladder. The light you bring seems more precious here, more vital. It falls on closed doors and dark windows. Yet, behind them, you know life is unfolding in 1,000 unseen dramas. You light a lamp, and its glow reveals a child's toy left on a doorstep, a streak of damp climbing a brick wall, the sleek, sudden movement of a cat slipping through a crack in a fence. You are the sole audience for these tiny, silent vignettes. Your river of light flows on, a quiet, luminous thread stitching together the disparate patches of the great dark quilt of London. The fog arrives not as a sudden blanket, but as a slow, insidious seep. It rises from the damp cobblestones and spills from the mouths of alleyways, a ghostly tide washing over the city. It is a quintessential feature of a London night, a thick, yellow-gray vapor that smells of wet coal and tastes of cold metal. The fog swallows sound, muffling the distant clatter of hooves and absorbing the sharp cries from the pubs, leaving you in a strangely intimate bubble of silence. The halos of light from your lamps, which seemed so bold and defiant just an hour ago, now shrink into small, besieged territories, their glow barely penetrating the thick, swirling miasma. Each lamp becomes a tiny, personal sun in a universe that extends no more than 20 feet in any direction. Your route carries you deeper into the rookeries, the densely packed warrens, where London's poor are crammed together. Here, the ladder is a liability, a clumsy giant in the narrow, winding lanes. You rely more on your pull for the few gas lamps that have made it this far into the city's forgotten corners. The air grows thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale gin, and overflowing cesspits. This is the London that the fine gentlemen from the squares pretend does not exist, but it is real, and it has its own nocturnal ecosystem. You are its silent, passing observer. In the shallow recess of a doorway, you see a huddled shape that resolves itself into 3 small children, asleep in a tangled pile for warmth, their faces pale and smudged in the fleeting light of your lamp. They are the city sparrows, fallen from a nest that was never there. You light the lamp above them, a small act of unconscious charity. The light won't feed them or clothe them, but for a few hours, it will keep the deepest of the shadows at bay. You move on before you can think about it too much. Thinking is not a productive part of your job. From a side alley, you hear a wheedling cry. "Light, sir?" Light your way through the fog. A pair of link boys, no older than the children in the doorway, emerge from the gloom. One holds a sputtering torch, a link of rope dipped in pitch that casts a wild, smoky, and altogether unreliable light. They are part of the city's informal economy, offering to guide the lost or the wealthy through the unlit passages for a coin. It's a quirky, often dangerous enterprise. You've seen them lead drunken gentlemen on merry chases that conveniently end in the clutches of a waiting accomplice. Yet tonight's potential customer, a stout merchant trying to navigate the fog, wisely waves them off with a gruff word. The boys melt back into the shadows, their disappointed curses swallowed by the fog. They are ghosts of the grid, entrepreneurs of the dark. Your path takes you to the edge of the rookery, where it borders a wealthier street. The contrast is as sharp as a slap. A grand house is ablaze with light from within. Every window a rectangle of brilliant gaslight. The faint, elegant strains of a string quartet drift through the fog. A handsome cab pulls up, and a footman rushes to open the door. A couple emerges, the gentleman in a sharp evening suit, the lady of vision in shimmering silk, her laughter like tiny bells. They are utterly oblivious to you as you stand across the street, leaning on your ladder in the shadows. They see only the warm, inviting glow of the party. You and they occupy the same moment, the same square of fog-bound London, but you might as well be on different planets. A figure in a dark blue, high-collared coat emerges from the fog, walking a steady, rhythmic beat. A peeler. He is a member of the Metropolitan Police, an institution still new enough to be finding its feet. He sees you and gives a slow, deliberate nod. You nod back. It is a silent exchange between 2 members of the same nocturnal tribe. He is here to guard the property and peace of the city's respectable citizens. You are here to guard the light. In a way, you are colleagues. Your presence and the light you bring makes his job a fraction easier. You know the secrets of these streets, the loose cobblestone that can trip a running man, the gate that doesn't latch properly, the shadows that are never truly empty. You are another set of eyes in the night, a fact that the police have come to appreciate. As the peeler continues on his way, you hear a different sound, the gravelly, drawn-out cry of the night watchman, an older tradition, a remnant from a less organized time. Past 1 o'clock, and all's well. His voice sounds thin and lonely in the fog. Given the sleeping children, the predatory link boys, and the general miasma of poverty and despair, his assessment of all's well seems to be generous, a little optimistic. It's a comforting lie, perhaps, a ritual to reassure the sleeping citizens that someone is, at least, awake. Historians still argue whether the Victorian night was a time of increased social freedom for the lower classes, a space away from the prying eyes of employers and moral reformers, or if it was simply a landscape of relentless threat and exploitation. As you light a lamp near a gin palace, its doors swinging open to reveal a scene of loud, desperate revelry, you suppose the answer is both. The night offers a kind of freedom, yes, the freedom to drink, to forget, to huddle with your own kind. but it is a freedom that is ringed by dangers, both from others and from oneself. The Jinn Palace's light is a different kind from yours. Yours is steady, calm, and civic. Theirs is frantic and hungry, promising a warmth that burns out far too quickly. You finish this section of your route, the trail of light behind you a faint, wavering line connecting the world of the silk dress to the world of the sleeping children. The fog begins to thin slightly as you move towards the more open spaces near the river. The city breathes around you, a great, sleeping beast murmuring its secrets. You have been its confessor for hours, a silent witness to its ghosts, its parties, its quiet sorrows, and its small, desperate joys. No, the moon, a pale, watery disk, has climbed to its highest point and is beginning its slow descent towards dawn. The deep, heavy silence of the dead of night has passed, replaced by a new, pre-dawn quiet, punctuated by the occasional rumble of a heavy cart heading to an early market. Your shoulders ache with a deep, familiar throb, and your feet feel like two heavy, useless lumps at the end of your legs. The initial chill of the evening has long since seeped into your bones, and now it feels as though your very marrow is cold. But the job is not yet done. You have brought the light. Now you must take it away. Your long, circular route has brought you back to the respectable squares where your night began. The grand houses are dark now, the party's over, their occupants lost in whatever dreams the wealthy have. The streets are empty, save for the odd stray cat and the ghosts of the night's revelries. A discarded glove, a crushed paper flower. This second half of your duty, the extinguishing, is known as dousing the glims. It is a strangely melancholic task. For hours, your entire purpose has been to create light, to push back the darkness. Now, you must undo your own work, methodically killing the tiny suns you so carefully birthed. The process is the reverse of your earlier work. For the gas lamps, you use the small hook on your pole not to open the valve, but to close it. The gas is cut off, and the bright white flame sputters for a second, shrinks to a tiny blue ghost, and vanishes with a soft pop. The lamp post is once again a dark, iron skeleton. The circle of light on the pavement is erased, and the gray, pre-dawn gloom rushes back in to reclaim its territory. There is a finality to it that feels much different from the soft thwomp of its creation. It's like blowing out a candle on a cake after the party is long over. As you move from lamp to lamp, plunging each one back into darkness, you are racing against the sunrise. The whole operation is timed. The gas companies are famously, almost comically, frugal. They do not want to pay for a single cubic foot of gas to be wasted burning against the light of the morning sun. Your wages could be docked for being too slow, for leaving the lamps burning into the daylight. So, there is a quiet urgency to your movements, a steady, rhythmic pace. Pop. Another lamp gone. The world grows a shade darker, a shade grayer. You reach the older, oil-lit section of your route. Here, the ladder must come out again. You climb into the cold air, your muscles protesting with every rung. At the top, you don't need to trim the wick. You open the glass housing and bring a small, conical brass snuffer over the flame. The warm, living light is instantly suffocated. A thin wisp of greasy smoke curls up, a final, sad sigh before it disappears. It feels more personal than turning off the gas lamps, more like a genuine extinguishment. This little flame has been a companion for hours. Its flickering dance, a small spot of life in the darkness. Putting it out feels like a minor betrayal. You do it a dozen times, the ladder creaking its weary complaint with each move. This dousing of the lights was a public service, but also a business. It's a mainstream historical fact that in the early days, before the city was covered by large gas companies, some private individuals would contract with lamplighters to have a lamp lit outside their home all night. This was as much a status symbol as it was for security, a way of showing you could afford your own personal beacon. But even those lamps had to be extinguished. Their purpose served no light, not even a privately funded one, was meant to compete with the dawn. As you work, the first stirrings of the city's new day begin. The air starts to change color, the deep, inky black softening to a charcoal gray. The eastern sky holds a faint, promising line of pale lilac. You hear the clatter of milk pails and the distant, lonely call of a baker, announcing fresh bread. Soon, the first wave of laborers will be on the streets, their faces drawn and tired before their day has even properly begun. They will walk past the lamps you are extinguishing, their path lit not by your efforts, but by the growing, natural light of the morning. You are a creature of the night, and your time is ending. The world of the day has no need for you. Finishing your last lamp, you shoulder your ladder for the final time. It feels heavier now than it did at the start of your shift. You begin the slow walk home. The streets are transformed. Windows that were dark sockets are now beginning to glow with the soft, yellow light of candles and oil lamps as the city's inhabitants wake. You, who have spent all night creating light outdoors, are now walking through a city that is creating its own light indoors. A strange quiet reversal. You arrive back at your tenement building just as the sun breaks through the low-lying clouds, casting long, weak shadows down the street. The boiled cabbage smell has been replaced by the aroma of frying bacon from another flat, a scent so delicious it's almost painful. You climb the stairs, each step a monumental effort. In your small attic room, you lean your ladder and your pole in the corner. They stand there, silent and exhausted, just like you. You peel off your damp coat and fall onto your mattress. The straw rustles, a welcoming sound. The city is now fully awake, a roaring, churning machine of commerce and life. But your work is done. You have kept the dark at bay for one more night. As you close your eyes, the last thing you see is the bright, unforgiving square of daylight in your window. You have tended the flames all night, and now you yield to the greatest lamp of all. Sleep comes quickly, a deep, dreamless plunge into your own personal darkness.
Da! Da!